Hello everyone, and I hope you've had quite a great time. I'm Hamid, and today I'm going to be with you with the third episode of me correcting your writing. So without any further ado, let's get to it. But before that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the content that I upload. So, today we're going to take a look at a writing that has been sent to me by you guys. Now let's take a look at this. As you can see, we have a very long introduction. And as we talked about this before, it's going to be a little bit problematic. The reason is because when you write such a long introduction, that means most probably you're adding information to the introduction that is not supposed to be there. Now, let's take a look at this and see if the writer has added any extra information to the introduction. So, scientific papers are mostly about criticism and interpretation. Okay, so reading the first line, I think of a few main ideas that the writer is going to talk about. Basically, the writer is telling us that scientific papers are about criticism and interpretation. So, as the reader, I would say that the main concept or the main idea is going to be scientific papers and the pain through which, so the way or the method that the writer wants to analyze scientific publications or papers is through criticism, which could be named concept one, and interpretation, which is number two, concept number two. But let's go on and see if that is actually the case. There is a specific type of scientific papers called review papers. Okay, now suddenly over here, we realize that the second sentence is not related to the previous sentence in any certain way. Because the writer is not expanding the idea of criticism and interpretation, but introducing a new idea. So let's just highlight this, and let's say this is concept three. Okay, so I'm going to accept this for now, but let's move on and see what is happening. And guys, don't forget to pay attention to grammar. This is a mistake. Let's move on to the next sentence. As I'm only a freshman in master's degree, but I'm a little familiar with scientific papers. Okay, now this sentence is completely problematic. The reason is because the scope of your writing is not being introduced clearly, and the reader is actually confused. What do you want to talk about? What is the main idea that you want to explain in your writing? And this is going to be quite problematic because it could be written, but the problem is that later on in your writing, you cannot support such broad arguments that you're putting forth in your introduction, and that is a big problem. Okay? Now, if the writer wanted to talk about his or her own place, even if you want to do that, it's not a really good idea to introduce it in the introduction. Why? Because this is becoming a detail. And an introduction, as we talked about it in the previous sessions, is not supposed to have any details included in it. It's quite simple because when you want to introduce something, you're not supposed to give any details. If you do, that means that you don't know how to write clearly. Okay? So now let's move on. A review paper has its name on it. Okay, now the writer is shifting back to review papers. You have to criticize someone or a few people's papers in a specific topic. Okay, So let's talk about this word you. Okay. Addressing one person, you, is that very logical to do while you want to do an IELTS writing? It's actually not, because over here we're supposed to generalize. We're supposed to talk about things that are correct about the majority of the people. We're not supposed to talk about one person or a specific group of people. Not that that is problematic, it's actually not, but it's better not to use such direct addresses to people. Now, let's move on. I believe in those kinds of papers, you have to write with details. Okay, again, the writer is entering into a lot of details and having a lot of details added to the introduction. Because someone's already been writing an overall information of a topic. So when you want to write a paper about someone's work, you've got to get to the details, whether you want to or not. Okay, now the last few lines over here, all of it is presenting to us detailed explanations about what? About review papers. But again, we're not talking about the main idea that was introduced in the very first sentence, which was scientific papers through the glass of criticism and interpretation. So this is a basic problem with this writing, because the writer does not follow the same line of thought that he or she introduced in the very first line. Okay, now, in order to overcome this problem and in order to fix it, this writer has to shorten the introduction a lot and be very clear. So, in order to have a good idea of how to do this, you guys need to watch the video that I uploaded a few days ago on coherence and cohesion. Using outlines in this situation and using good brainstorming techniques would help you a lot, because when you do so, it's going to help you with arranging the ideas from going from A, getting to B, getting to C. So make sure to watch that video now. And as you can see, this writing only has 3 paragraphs. That is problematic, because having one introduction, one conclusion, and then one body paragraph, that is a big problem. Why? Because you cannot get into a lot of details in one body paragraph. And it's basically not going to be enough. So consider using at least 2 body paragraphs for the text that you're writing. If not 2, you can actually go to 3 as well. For some certain topics, that is a possibility. I will explain about this later on. So let's get to the second body paragraph now. In other cases, I believe science must be free to all humankind. Okay. Now, over here, once again, we're feeling a shift in the main idea being introduced. That is, again, another problem. So over here, the writer is talking about how science should be free to all humankind. Okay, and this should be kind. Why is this problematic? Because the writer in the very first sentence made it clear for us that he or she wants to talk about scientific papers. And over here, we're talking about the availability, the freedom of science, but not about what about scientific publications. And that is going to be a problem, especially with task response. Now, I'm going to explain about these later on, But just keep this in mind. There is no clear relationship between what we had at the beginning and what we have over here in the body paragraph. Everyone has the right to learn new things as we are freely using learning platforms like YouTube. Once again, no relation to the topic. There is no difference in higher education. This doesn't have S. In my opinion, if you put profit first in science and of course scientific papers, you'll danger next breakthroughs or discoveries. Okay, now over here, the writer is actually talking about scientific papers, but is there a clear relationship between scientific papers and the content being introduced over here? Well, it's actually, the answer is no. Because over here, we're just jumping into a personal opinion without having the concept clearly introduced previously. And that is going to be a big problem for us because this does not prove any fact or any point to the reader. So just keep that in mind. When money comes in, everyone always wants a share, and people can literally get benefit with something beautiful on the outside but not valuable on the inside. Again, there is no clear relationship between all of the parts. Don't forget that a good writing, take a look at this. I want to draw something for you. A good writing is supposed to work like this. I need to have a clear idea in the middle, and I need to have some concepts branching off of the main idea. But did you see that this kind of connection between the ideas introduced over here? Well, no. We didn't have any kind of overlap between the concepts. And were they completely introduced and explained as we talked about it before? Well, actually, no. Now, let's move on to the conclusion. In conclusion, the scientific community and following them, the whole world will get an unsustainable damage from putting scientific works into earning more money out of them. Okay, so let's talk about this will get. Okay, the problem over here, guys. Let's think about the level of certainty introduced over here. Do you think that we can actually say for sure that if scientific research is put into making money, we will get an unsustainable damage out of it? How can you be so sure? Because let's think about the current world. Well, we have a lot of different companies. Companies invest into science, and then they use what is actually produced out of scientific research. So, using such strong arguments when you want to write or when you want to speak is going to be problematic. In this situation, in academic writing, we use something called hedging. Now, hedging, it actually means that you can use, or we can also use it, call it modality. It actually refers to the fact that you shouldn't be very sure about what you say. As a result, it would be better over here to say the whole world may take unsustainable damage from this and that. Okay? Don't forget this. This is quite important. It's a very important point. We will have a video made out of it later on. The next sentence says, as a future member of the scientific community, I have to discover new things, solve unsolved problems, and serve the world with getting new ideas to come true, not to get rich with publishing a scientific paper. Okay, now over here again, the writer is talking about getting rich out of scientific papers. But was this the main idea of the whole text? Well, it actually wasn't. So, as you see, we do not have a good connection between all of the different parts in the writing, and that is problematic. So, this writer has to think about one question, and you have to answer this question to yourself. How is my writing connected? How are all of the different parts in my writing connected with each other? Think about this, write this writing again, send it to me, but this time don't forget to send the question as well. I hope you like this correction video, and I hope you've had quite a great day, quite a great life, and don't forget to keep that smile on your face.